Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to give you an update on the Colonial Pipeline situation because apparently this has really ticked off the Biden administration, and we have some news that just happened today that I want to talk about. Now, this is coming from Cyberscoop, but here's what's going on. President Biden suggested that the United States intends to pursue the attackers who infected the systems of essentially the largest pipeline in the country with ransomware. Now, the incident led Colonial Pipeline to shut down its operations for several days. As I mentioned before, I did an entire video a couple of days ago about everything we know about this, and obviously the FBI got involved and they traced back this to the dark side ransomware gang, which essentially basically said, it's not us, it's somebody that bought our malware, don't look at me. It's one of the very few times where I've seen an actual dark web gang backpedal for fear of the entire weight of the US government coming down on them, and this is what Biden is indicating right now. So, following this spike in demand for fuel, the US government is going to disrupt the attackers who are believed to reside in Russia, according to President Biden. And to quote President Biden directly, "We have been in direct communication with Moscow for the imperative for responsible countries to take decisive action against these ransomware networks. We're also going to pursue a measure to disrupt their ability to operate." Now, the president did not rule out carrying out retaliatory cyber attacks targeting the criminals, clarifying that the United States does not believe that the Russian government was behind the attack. And to continue, with quoting President Biden, and I quote, "We do not believe," emphasis on "we do not believe," the Russian government was involved in this attack, but we do have strong reason to believe that the criminals who did attack are living in Russia. Now, Biden indicated, however, that he believes Russia does indeed bear some responsibility. One of the main topics the president said he intends to discuss with Russian President Vladimir Putin is governments that knowingly allow criminal hackers like those working with DarkSide to conduct ransomware operations from within their borders. Now, Biden did not specifically say whether the U.S. government would be targeting DarkSide, the criminal syndicate that distributes ransomware to criminal partners, or the affiliate hackers or attackers that were basically using DarkSide ransomware to target Colonial Pipeline. If you recall, I mentioned DarkSide came out and said, "This isn't us. We don't target government institutions. We're not political. We're simply selling a ransomware service that somebody bought," and then hit Colonial Pipeline, and DarkSide will now start vetting their customers, however they're going to do that, from basically not doing that in the future. That is kind of laughable, but here we are. Now, this news comes after Colonial Pipeline now started resuming basically the movement of fuel on the eastern seaboard last night, just days after it shut down operations, obviously, to recover from this incident. And the firm opted to pay the criminal hackers behind the attack $5 million in ransom in order to get their shipments back online, and that was according to Bloomberg earlier today. Now, even after Colonial said that they paid the ransom, the decryption tool that they received from the attackers was reportedly slow to function, which then forced the company to rely on its own backups and restoration methods, also according to Bloomberg. President Biden declined to comment on whether he had been briefed on the ransomware payment or not. Now, the reported decision to pay the attackers is going to raise questions about Colonial Pipeline's decision-making process and what it means for future potential victims. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security's CISA basically have warned companies to avoid paying ransoms, as essentially it's not a guarantee that they'll get their encrypted files back. And that is true. I have been through several ransomware events with then new clients, as they decide or make the choice for whatever reason to pay that. And oftentimes the decryption tool will get back a lot, but not all. Some things like databases that are actively in use from Microsoft SQL or Oracle that are encrypted out don't recover properly, and you have to go to backups. Unfortunately, sometimes the backups are encrypted as well. So that is a very serious problem, not to mention the fact that you're negotiating with terrorists, if you will, which is the default position of the U.S. government in the sense that we don't do that. Now, U.S. officials also worry that this can embolden or encourage criminal hackers to go after other targets. And why not? Because Colonial Pipeline, despite it being critical infrastructure, now bringing the weight of the U.S. government down on it, basically netted $5 million to the attackers, and that's a huge payday via cryptocurrency. Now, Colonial Pipeline declined to comment, but they cited that they are going through an ongoing investigation The National Security Council also did not immediately return requests for comment on this situation, and here we are. Now, fuel shortages are basically, as a result, that we now know this, are more from a run on fuel from panicked people than the actual stoppage of the pipeline. Meaning, if nobody knew this happened, nobody would have been short on gas. But I think there's a really interesting thing here in the sense that the one benefit that Colonial Pipeline has, even if they paid the attackers in this situation, is that the weight of the government, the President of the United States came out and said, yeah, we're going after them. We're going to disrupt them. We're going to mess some stuff up. And while it wasn't Russia directly, they have some culpability for allowing these attackers to operate within the borders, which is actually kind of interesting because we do see, criminal hackers here in the United States as well. That's not simply a Russia or China or France issue. They're all over the place. And that's a very serious issue. But I think what would give others pause when they are selecting targets, meaning the criminals selecting targets, is that as they look at Colonial Pipeline, maybe they'll do their homework. Maybe they will realize, hey, if I knock out this massive infrastructure, whatever it is, for the United States or another major country, there's going to be some serious ramifications because the entire intelligence apparatus and law enforcement apparatus of the United States and their international intelligence and law enforcement partners are going to be after us. Maybe that's not a good thing. And so there is the silver lining in this situation. This is where it stands right now. We're going to be looking at some kind of disruption or retaliatory measure against this group. We'll see where that happens. Fuel is flowing. Please stop making a run on fuel. I heard that in Virginia, it got up to $7 a gallon. That's probably for regular due to this, and it didn't need to be. We have good contingency plans for things like this, and even though we had a disruption for a few days, the pipeline did get back online and it did flow. So please make sure you're not panic buying everything. And I'm pretty sure the people that made a panicked run on the gas were pretty much the ones that made the panic run on the toilet paper last March, a year ago. So that's obviously a huge problem. So that is your news of the day. We are dealing with this apparently, and the Biden administration is not too happy with these attackers, and we're going to see what happens. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.